Caro's stepmother, Ogechi, sent Caro to fetch water from the stream one faithful night. But that one request was born from pure wickedness, because in their village, everyone knew one rule. A rule older than their grandfathers, a rule no one ever dared to break. No one must go to the forbidden stream once the sun disappears. Not even adults, not even during emergencies. Because once darkness settles on the water, the people believe the river god, Mamiri, rises from the deep to walk along the banks. And anyone he meets is taken, forever, drowned and swallowed as a sacrificial offering. But Ogechi didn't care. All she wanted was to send Caro away to die. And that night, as she forced the innocent girl to the stream at that forbidden hour, something strange happened. Something no one in the village expected. Something that left every mouth hanging open in shock. And something that changed Caro's life forever. Caro grew up wrapped in love. She was a bright, gentle, obedient girl who never raised her voice at anyone. In the whole community, people often said, if all children behaved like Caro, the world would be peaceful. Her parents, Nedu and Adana, adored her. They treated her like she was the center of their world. And truly, she was. Their home was always warm and full of joy. Every morning, Caro woke to the sound of her parents' soft laughter floating from the kitchen. On some evenings, Adana sat outside on a low stool, braiding Caro's hair. Caro sat on a small wooden chair between her legs, humming softly as her mother gently parted and twisted the sections. Sometimes Adana leaned forward and kissed the top of Caro's head, whispering, "My jewel, may God always keep you." Nedu also had his own way of showing love. When they went to the market, he lifted Caro onto his shoulders, holding her legs firmly as she giggled and clapped. Market women smiled whenever they passed and said, "Ah, Nedu, you so much love this your daughter." Nedu always replied with a playful smile, "If I don't love her, who will I love?" Evenings were filled with warmth. Nedu telling stories, Adana laughing softly, Caro sitting between them enjoying every moment. Their home was peaceful, almost perfect, but life can change in the blink of an eye. And that peaceful world shattered one afternoon. It started like every other normal day. The sun sat high in the sky. Adana left home to visit a friend at the next village. She packed her small handbag, pecked Caro on the cheek, and promised to return before evening. Caro waited. She helped her father sweep the compound. She played in the sand. She kept glancing at the gate, waiting for her mother's familiar footsteps. But instead of Adana returning, a neighbor ran into their compound shouting for Nedu. "Nedu, Nedu, please come quickly, your wife, there has been an accident." Nedu froze. "What? Accident? Where?" "On the main road. A car knocked her down. They rushed her to the hospital." Little Caro felt her heart drop. She grabbed her father's hand tightly as he panicked and rushed towards the road to stop the nearest available vehicle. His hands shook so badly as he waved at the driver. "Caro, get in the car!" he shouted, his voice filled with fear. Caro scrambled into the back seat, her little hands trembling. The drive to the hospital felt like a nightmare. Nedu kept muttering, "God, please, don't let anything happen to my wife. Please." When they arrived, a nurse guided them to the emergency room, and there, on the bed, Adana lay almost lifeless. Her body was bruised. Her breathing was faint. Her eyes were closed. She looked nothing like the warm, cheerful mother Caro knew. "Mama!" Caro screamed, trying to run to her, but a nurse held her back gently. Nedu rushed to his wife's side, held her hand, and cried openly, "Adana, stay with me, please! Be strong for me!" Caro collapsed to the floor, sobbing until her throat burned. She begged her mother over and over, "Mummy, please wake up! Please don't leave me! Please come back!" For days, the hospital became their second home. Each day seemed longer than the last. Doctors worked tirelessly. Nurses whispered prayers, but nothing helped. On the fourth day, the worst happened. Adana's breathing slowed, then stopped. She gave up the ghost. The world went silent. Caro screamed as if her soul tore in half. Her father sank to the ground beside the bed, holding his wife's cold hand, unable to speak. Everything Caro knew, love, warmth, laughter, died in that room. And life was never the same again. Few days later, Adana was buried. After her burial, the house felt empty. Caro spent nights crying herself to sleep. Nedu tried to be strong, but the pain broke him in ways he didn't show. For months, he cared for Caro alone. He tied her hair the way he believed her mother used to. He cooked simple meals. He tried to smile for her sake. But the ache of losing a wife and watching his daughter suffer became too much. The village elders noticed his struggle. One evening, they visited him and advised gently, "Nedu, you need companionship, and the girl needs a mother figure. No man raises a child alone." At first, Nedu resisted, but eventually he agreed to consider their advice. In no time, he met another woman called Ogechi, and that was how a stepmother figure entered Caro's life. At first, Ogechi appeared kind. She greeted neighbors with a warm smile. She cooked in large pots. She braided Caro's hair lovingly. She called Caro my daughter, with a sweet voice that fooled everyone. Even Caro began to trust her, grateful for a woman's presence again. She helped Caro iron her clothes for school. She held Caro when nightmares came. She sang lullabies at night. The village women even praised Nedu for marrying such a good woman. But beneath that sweet voice, something darker hid. And it began with Ogechi's secret fear. Years passed. Ogechi did not conceive. People whispered behind her back, "How can a young woman not have a child? What if Caro inherits everything Nedu has? She better pray, or this Caro will overshadow her in the future." Ogechi heard every whisper, and jealousy began to grow inside her like poison. She started watching Caro with suspicious eyes. Every time Nedu smiled at Caro, Ogechi's chest tightened with bitterness. But finally, her fortunes changed. Her heart desire was granted. One morning, Ogechi knelt in the compound, crying tears of joy. She was pregnant. The whole village celebrated. Caro danced around her, genuinely happy. Months later, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Caro adored him. For a while after the baby boy came, the house regained its warmth. Caro believed life was healing again. She helped bathe her little brother, carried him on her back, played with him, and even sang her mother's old lullabies to him. Sometimes the boy giggled and pulled her hair, and Caro would laugh softly, forgetting her pain for a moment. But that calm did not last. When the little boy turned 5, tragedy struck again. Quick, sharp, and unexpected. It started one cold morning. Nedu woke up coughing faintly. He brushed it off, telling Caro and Ogechi that it was probably the dusty Harmattan wind. But the next day, the cough deepened. He grew weaker. His voice cracked and he barely ate. By the third day, he could hardly stand. Caro held his arm tightly as he tried to sit up. "Papa, let me get water for you," she said, tears already gathering in her eyes. He forced a weak smile. "My jewel, I'm fine. It's just small fever." But his hands were trembling. Ogechi pretended to be concerned. She walked around his bed with her wrapper tied firmly around her chest, sighing loudly and telling neighbors, "Sickness wants to finish my husband. I don't know why wicked people don't want us to have peace." Yet she did almost nothing to help him. By evening, Nedu's breathing had become faint. Caro sat by his side, holding his hand tightly, refusing to move. Tears fell non-stop from her eyes as she whispered, "Papa, please don't leave me again. Please don't go." But Nedu was slipping away, his eyes unfocused, his words fading. When night fell, he took one last breath and did not take another. He died. The little girl lost him, the same way she'd lost her dear mother Adana years back. Caro let out a sharp scream that pierced the entire compound. She threw herself on her father's body, begging him to wake up. Her small hands held onto his shirt with desperation. Her tears soaked his chest as she cried uncontrollably. "Papa, please. Papa, don't leave me. Please." But there was no response, no warmth, no life. The house that once felt full now felt like a grave. Few days later, Nadu was buried. Caro sobbed through the entire ceremony. Her legs shook so badly that 2 women had to hold her. She watched helplessly as the sand covered her father's coffin, each shovel of earth ripping a deeper part of her heart. She no longer had a mother, and now she no longer has a father. What she didn't know was that her suffering was only beginning, because her stepmother was only about to reveal her true nature. The moment they returned from the burial, everything changed. No one had even finished eating the food served to mourners before Ogechi threw away her wrapper of pretended sorrow. Her face hardened, her voice sharpened like a blade. The first night, she barked at Caro. "Go and wash all the plates outside before you sleep." Caro looked up weakly. "Stepma, I'm tired. A heavy slap landed on her face before she finished speaking. "Are you mad? Who is your stepma? I'll let you kill me the way you killed your mother. Or you think I don't know? Which?" Caro staggered back, holding her cheek. From that night on, hell opened its doors. Ogechi starved her. Most nights, Caro slept without eating. If she asked for food, Ogechi shouted, "Is it me that will feed a child that is not mine? Go and eat your mother in her grave." She forced Caro to do every chore, sweeping, fetching water, washing clothes, even in the cold Harmattan morning, cooking, cleaning, carrying heavy loads from the farm. Caro's hands began to blister, her nails cracked. Her clothes became old, torn, and dirty. She lost weight. Her eyes became hollow. Ogechi beat her over the smallest mistake. A plate not washed properly, a pot not polished enough, a broom left leaning against the wrong wall. And every time she screams the same thing. "Witch." Neighbors noticed everything. Some whispered, "This woman is wicked, oh." Others said, "That girl is suffering, but what can we do? If we talk, she will fight us." Indeed, Ogechi threatened anyone who tried to interfere. One afternoon, a neighbor, Mama Kamji, approached Caro gently in the backyard and called gently, "My daughter, come and eat something. You look tired." Before Caro could respond, Ogechi stormed out with fury in her eyes. "No, Mama Kamji, this good-for-nothing girl has eaten." Then she turned to Caro. "Are you now begging people for food? So it has gotten to this. You now want to embarrass me? Useless child!" She dragged Caro inside by her arm. That evening, Caro's screams echoed through the compound. People shook their heads but looked away. The innocent girl who once lived in love was now living in fear. Caro's childhood faded into shadows. Her smile disappeared. Her voice weakened. She moved like someone whose soul had been dimmed. Every night, Caro cried quietly into her pillow, praying for her father to return, for someone to save her, for anything to change. But help didn't come, and things only got worse. It continued, until the day of the wicked assignment. It happened on a dry season evening. One of those nights when the Harmattan wind blew fiercely, making the leaves scratch the earth like restless footsteps. The air was unusually cold. The moon hid behind clouds. Darkness hung low over the village. Caro had finished washing clothes and was resting her aching back when she heard Ogechi's voice from inside the house. "Caro, come here at once." Caro rushed in, her heart already trembling. "Yes, I'm here, Before she finished, Ogechi thrust an empty bucket into her hands. "Go to the stream now and fetch water." Caro froze. Her eyes widened. Her breath hitched. "Stepma, it's late," she whispered. "Nobody goes to the stream after sunset. They say—" A resounding slap cut her words short. "Are you stupid? You now believe in stupid stories? Do as I said." Caro's voice shook. "Please, I beg you, it's dark. Everybody knows the river is not safe at night." Ogechi slapped her again, harder this time. "Are you now questioning me? Am I your mate? Take the bucket and go!" Tears stung Caro's eyes. Her body trembled from fear. Everybody in the village knew the rule. No one went to the river after sunset. The stream was sacred ground. After dark, the river god, Ezamiri, was believed to rise and walk the riverbank. They said anyone he saw would vanish forever, but Ogechi didn't care. In fact, she wanted it. Inside her heart, she whispered, "Let her not return. Let her die. My son will become the only heir." Caro clutched the bucket tightly, tears dropping onto her feet. She whispered, "God, please help me. Please don't let anything happen to me." Then she stepped into the night, walking into the darkest moment of her life. The wind pushed against her. The trees whispered like spirits. Dry leaves flew across her path like tiny shadows darting around her. As she walked, her fear deepened. Her hands shook uncontrollably. Her bare feet grew colder with each step. The village was silent, too silent. She kept glancing behind her, feeling as if someone or something was following her. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. But turning back was not an option. Ogechi would kill her. The night swallowed every sound as she approached the edges of the forbidden stream. Not even the crickets dared to sing. The path leading there felt colder than the rest of the village, as if the air itself was warning her to turn back. But she couldn't. Her stepmother's voice still echoed in her ears, sharp and threatening. Caro squeezed the bucket in her hands and continued walking, her legs shaking with each step. When she reached the mouth of the stream, she stopped. The moon hung low, dim, pale, almost sickly looking, as if it too feared what lay beneath those waters. The tall trees around her stood stiff and silent. Their shadows stretched long, like dark fingers trying to pull her away. Wind suddenly circled her ankles, swirling dry leaves around her feet. She gasped quietly and held her chest. "Please, God, please protect me," she whispered, her voice barely leaving her throat. She moved closer to the stream and bent slightly to place her bucket down. But the moment the bucket touched the ground, she heard something so frightening. Splash, ripple, movement. Her heart jumped violently. The water in front of her began to move, but nothing had touched it. No stone fell. No fish jumped. No breeze blew strong enough to cause that kind of movement. Yet the water rippled. Then the ripples grew bigger, circling out and returning inward again, as if something underneath was trying to break free. Caro took a step back, trembling. What is happening?" she stammered in fear. The ripples rose higher and higher, forming a small whirlpool right before her eyes. The surface of the water darkened, taking on a deep metallic blue. Then it glowed faintly, just enough to show that something was rising beneath. Caro froze. She wanted to run. Her legs refused to move. She watched helplessly as the water lifted itself into a swirling column of light. The wind roared around her, lifting her dress slightly. The trees bent back as if bowing. Then he appeared. A glowing figure slowly emerged from the shimmering water. At first, Caro thought she was dreaming because nothing that beautiful and terrifying could exist in the world of humans. The figure stepped forward, tall, radiant, majestic. His body shimmered with water that didn't fall. His skin glowed with a soft blue light, and his eyes were silver, bright enough to pierce through darkness. It was him, Ezamiri, the river god, the deity whose wrath entire generations feared, the being no villager dared to see after dark, the spirit who was said to claim souls forever. Caro dropped to her knees immediately. Her bucket rolled away. Tears streamed from her eyes. "Please, please don't kill me," she cried, her voice cracking. "I didn't want to come. I swear I didn't want to break your rules. My stepmother forced me. Please spare me. I beg you." Her hands trembled violently. Her chest rose and fell quickly as fear tightened her throat. The river god stood still, staring at her with eyes that saw everything. Caro's body shivered harder. She thought of her mother, her father, her little stepbrother. She thought of the beatings, the insults, the hunger. Everything inside her broke open as she cried. "I don't have anybody. My mother is dead. My father too. My stepmother hates me. Please don't take me. Please." The river god leaned slightly forward, bending in a way that felt both graceful and ancient. His face remained unreadable. The night held its breath. The water stilled completely. The wind vanished. Everything became silent, as if the world itself paused to witness what would happen next. Caro sobbed uncontrollably. Most people who saw the river god never returned. Stories told of fishermen who disappeared, children dragged underwater, and adults who turned to shadows. She believed this was the end. But then, something strange happened. The river god blinked, slowly, softly, almost gently. The silver in his eyes dimmed slightly, revealing a depth Caro had never seen in any human or spirit, a depth that looked like pity. The god stepped forward. Caro's heart stopped, but instead of striking her, he extended a hand and placed it on Caro's cheek. The moment the river god touched Caro's cheek, everything went silent, completely silent. Even Caro's cries froze on her lips. She felt as if time paused around her. A cold softness spread across her skin, calming her heartbeat, slowing her breathing. The fear that was strangling her loosened slightly. The river god spoke, his voice echoing like water running over polished stones. "Beautiful child, your heart is innocent." Caro swallowed sharply, tears still falling. "Your tears are pure," the god continued, his voice flowing like a gentle stream. "And your suffering is not hidden from the spirits." Caro burst into fresh tears. "Please, please don't hurt me. I didn't choose to come. My stepmother sent me. She forced me. I don't want to die." The river god watched her quietly, his face unreadable, but his eyes knowing. He lifted his gaze briefly toward the dark path Caro had taken, then back at the trembling girl kneeling before him. "You have cried for too long," the god said softly. "Your pain has touched even the waters." Caro shook her head, choking on sobs. "I have nobody. Everyone is gone. My stepmother beats me. She hates me. I don't know what I did." The river god tilted his head slightly, observing her, as if reading every memory buried inside her chest. "You will not die tonight," he said. Caro froze. She couldn't believe her ears. Was the god being merciful? Was he truly sparing her life? Then the river god added, "Instead, you shall rise." Caro lifted her face slowly, hope and confusion mixing in her eyes. "And the hands that sent you here," the god continued, "intending to kill you, shall bow before you." Caro stared at him in utter shock. But why me?" she whispered. The god didn't answer immediately. He lifted her palm, scooped a handful of water from the stream, and breathed gently into it. The water glowed, softly at first, then brighter, turning into a small orb of shimmering blue light. Caro's eyes widened as she watched the glowing water float between them. "This is my gift," the god said. Caro blinked. "Gift?" "The gift of healing waters." The glowing water circled Caro slowly, illuminating her skin with gentle blue light. "Wherever you touch," the god said, "life will return." The orb circled again, releasing small sparks of light that landed on Caro's arms. "Wherever you speak," the god continued, "sickness will flee." Caro stared at her hands, stunned. "Wherever you stand," the god said, "misfortune will bow." Caro's breath caught. A slave, no, a suffering child, was becoming a chosen vessel. A nobody was being crowned by a deity. Her tears shifted from fear to disbelief. I don't understand," she whispered. "You don't need to," the river god replied. "Just remember this. Light always rises from the deepest wounds." The glowing orb returned to the god's palm. He let it dissolve back into the river. Light rippled beneath the water, as if the river itself accepted Caro. The river god placed his hand gently on Caro's head. "Go, child," he said, "but hide your gift. Your light will blind many." Caro nodded slowly, wiping her tears. The god stepped backward, merging with the water once more. His body dissolved into ripples, his silver eyes the last thing to disappear beneath the glowing surface. As the river stilled, Caro was left kneeling beside her bucket, staring at the shimmering water in disbelief. She rose shakily, picked up the bucket, and began walking home, her steps weak, her heart racing, her life forever changed. Her suffering had led her to the place meant to kill her, but instead, that place became the birthplace of her power. Days passed after she returned from the forbidden stream with the god's gift hidden deep in her chest. But nothing changed in the house. Ogechi did not soften. She did not treat Caro better. In fact, she became worse, more cruel, more unpredictable. It was as if the darkness in her heart sensed the light rising in Caro and wanted to crush it before it grew wings. One hot evening, when the sun was almost down and the smell of roasting Gary filled the compound, Ogechi burst out of the kitchen and began shouting Caro's name. "Caro! Caro! Where are you?" Caro came running immediately, dust covering her legs from the sweeping she had been doing outside. "Yes, Stepma. You called me?" she asked gently. Ogechi's eyes hardened. She lifted the long Gary-turning stick and pointed it at Caro. "You spilled water on the floor, Abby? Do you want to break my neck in this house?" Caro opened her mouth to speak. "Stepma, it was the bucket that—" Before she finished the sentence, Ogechi swung the turning stick and struck her across the shoulder. Caro screamed and staggered backwards. Another blow landed, then another, and another. The turning stick hit her so hard that the wood itself broke in Ogechi's hand. Caro cried out as her elbow bent in a strange direction. A sharp pain shot down her entire arm. She fell to the floor, clutching the broken limb. Tears rolled down her cheeks like rainwater. Neighbors who heard the scream rushed to the compound. "Ogechi, what is happening? What did the girl do this time?" one woman shouted. Ogechi stood over Caro, panting through her anger. "She fell. This girl is always careless. I was helping her press her wound with hot water when you people came. You know children of nowadays." She knelt beside Caro instantly and began pretending to press the wound with a cloth soaked in hot water. She put on a false expression of concern. "She's like my daughter," she told the neighbors. "You people know how I treat her." The neighbors nodded and smiled. "Caro is lucky to have you, Ogechi." "Yes, not every stepmother is wicked." Ogechi smiled and waved them off. "Thank you, my neighbors. Let me finish taking care of her." The moment they walked away and the last door closed, Ogechi stood up slowly. Her face changed. The fake kindness disappeared. She lifted the same bowl of hot water she pretended to use to soothe the wound and poured the entire thing on Caro's injured arm. Caro's scream tore through the silence of the evening. She rolled on the ground, shaking uncontrollably as the boiling water seared her skin. Ogechi walked away, unmoved. "No food for you tonight. Maybe next time you will learn to be careful," she growled. That night, Caro lay on her bed. Her entire arm throbbed with pain. The broken bone, the burn, the bruises, everything seemed to pulse at once. Tears soaked her pillow until it became too wet. Her body shook with silent sobs. Then suddenly a memory flashed in her mind. The river, the god, the glowing water, the words, "Wherever you touch, life will return." Caro sat up slowly, breathing heavily from the pain. "Can I heal myself too?" she whispered. She looked at her swollen arm. Her skin was red, her elbow was bent, her whole hand felt like fire. With trembling fingers, she placed her left hand gently on her broken arm. "Please," she whispered, "if this gift is truly mine, please heal me." And at that very moment, a warm sensation moved from her palm into the broken flesh. Not hot, not painful, just warm and soothing. The warmth spread down her wrist, around her elbow, into her fingers. Caro gasped softly. The pain faded slowly, then faster, then completely. She blinked and touched the spot again. No pain, no swelling. Her elbow moved freely. Her burn marks vanished as if they never existed. She covered her mouth to stop herself from shouting in surprise. She almost screamed from joy, but caught herself. If Ogechi heard her, it would be trouble. She sat back on her bed, breathing hard. It was real. The god's gift was real. For days, Caro hid her arm. She wrapped it in cloth, pretending it was still injured so Ogechi wouldn't suspect anything. One morning, Ogechi noticed the way Caro lifted a bucket normally, forgetting to act injured. She was shocked. "How did your hand heal?" Ogechi shouted. Caro froze. Fear hit her chest immediately. I don't know, it just..." Before she could finish, Ogechi grabbed her by the cloth and slapped her across the face. "Liar! Did you sneak out to see any herbalist? Did you hide medicine somewhere?" She dragged Caro to the backyard and beat her again. Caro cried until she was too weak to stand. Even after all the pain Ogechi had caused her, Caro said nothing about the river god. She knew revealing her gift would only bring more evil. Months passed. Ogechi's wickedness continued. But Caro's heart remained soft. One evening, the unexpected happened. Ogechi rushed home with tears in her eyes. Her little boy, Chibuike, Caro's half-brother, was burning with fever. His breathing was weak. His tiny hands trembled. Ogechi paced the room crying, taking him everywhere. Herbalists, nursing mothers, healers. But the boy only grew worse. Caro saw her stepmother broken with helplessness. And despite everything Ogechi had done to her, Caro's heart softened. She couldn't let an innocent child suffer. When Ogechi went to the kitchen to boil more herbs, Caro sneaked quietly into the room. The little boy lay still on the mat, his breath shallow. Caro knelt beside him. "Chibuike," she whispered softly. "It's me, Sister Caro." The little boy's eyelids fluttered weakly. Caro placed her glowing hand gently on his chest. The warm sensation flowed again, this time stronger, deeper, and brighter. Immediately, the little boy's breathing steadied. His trembling stopped. His cheeks regained color. His eyes opened slowly, and he whispered, Sister Caro?" She smiled and nodded. "You're fine now, okay? Just rest." The little boy nodded and closed his eyes peacefully. Caro quickly slipped out of the room before Ogechi returned. A few minutes later, Ogechi came into the room with a bowl of herbs. She stopped at the door, stunned. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her son sat upright, breathing normally, smiling weakly. "Mummy, I'm okay." Ogechi dropped the bowl in shock. What happened?" The boy smiled softly. "Sister Caro came. She touched me, and I feel fine now." Ogechi's jaw trembled. Her heart tightened, confused between disbelief and fear. Caro? The same Caro she beat? The same Caro she starved? Ogechi didn't thank her. She didn't hug her son. Instead, she hid her shock and kept quiet, deciding to observe Caro closely. Days passed, and strange things began happening wherever Caro went. A child with swollen legs touched Caro's skirt and stood up normally minutes later. A goat that was dying regained strength after Caro rubbed its head. An old man who hadn't walked properly in months suddenly felt relief after Caro greeted him. People whispered, "There is something special about this girl. Caro is not ordinary. This child carries something divine." Ogechi's jealousy boiled hotter than ever. Instead of being grateful, she became more wicked, more violent, and more desperate to break Caro. One evening, she rushed toward Caro with a stick, intending to beat her again. But the moment she raised her hand, her arm froze in the air, completely stiff, unable to move. Ogechi screamed and dropped the stick with her left hand, shaking the frozen arm. "What is happening? What did you do to me?" Caro stepped back, crying. "I didn't do anything." But the truth was clear. Her gift protected her. The neighbors saw the commotion and came running. This time they didn't allow Ogechi to lie. They called the village elders. During questioning, Ogechi shook like a leaf. Caro told everything. The abuse, the beatings, the starvation, the nighttime torture, the forbidden stream assignment. The elders were horrified. They turned to Ogechi. "Is this true?" they demanded. Ogechi's legs shook. She fell to her knees and confessed everything, trembling from fear. The elders didn't hesitate. They pronounced judgment. For attempted spiritual murder, cruelty, and wickedness, Ogechi is banished from this community. Ogechi screamed and begged, but nobody listened. Even her own relatives refused to defend her. She was dragged away in disgrace, while the villagers surrounded Caro with love and protection. The elders adopted Caro and trained her in the healing arts. She healed the sick. She comforted the dying. She brought hope to the hopeless. From a suffering orphan, she became the village's youngest healer, loved, respected, protected. And every time she passed by the forbidden stream, the water shimmered softly, as if the god herself was watching proudly. The place meant to destroy her became the place where her destiny began. Moral of this story. This story isn't just about Caro and what happened to her heartless stepmother. It's about teaching us that wickedness never wins in the end. Innocent tears never go unnoticed, even by the spirits. Sometimes the place meant to destroy you becomes the place God uses to lift you. We shouldn't forget that light always exposes darkness, and the harm you plan for others often becomes the road to your own downfall. Did you enjoy the story? Do you believe some stepmothers can be this wicked? Do you also think Ogechi deserved what she got in the end? If you were Caro, would you have gone to the stream or refused the order no matter the consequence? Have you also heard similar stories in your village or family? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to African Tales by Imade for more heart-touching, mystical, and culture-rich African stories filled with wisdom and deep lessons like this. See you in the next one.